Tom and I both worked on Aliens, the second in the Alien series. We worked for Stan Winston, who was the creature effects designer on that show. We then went on to form our own company sometime after that, and we were hired to do the creature effects for Alien 3. And that put us in a very logical position to do the effects on Alien Resurrection. So we feel very fortunate to be able to sort of carry the torch from one film to the other. And in fact, other than Sigourney Weaver, we are the longest running veterans of this series.
I've worked with Tom Woodruff and Alec Gillis now for 3 pictures. They do the creature effects, and Tom, in fact, is often the guy in the suit.
The biggest changes we did to the alien was that we wanted to make him seem more cunning or more vicious, and in terms of a way to do that design-wise is, you look for more directional lines, sharper angles, and a lot of the art elements that went into it. We have the dome, for example, is more pointed this time. The chin is more pointed and brought forward. We've exaggerated the shoulders and some of the elements of the rib cage up here to make it stand out more and help reduce some of the forms around it. So again, it's like a process of totally honing, refining something each time you go through it.
The swimming aliens were a whole design issue, and we let the fact that they swam influence the design of the new warrior creatures to a degree. We put a sort of paddle-like blade on the end of the tail.
Yeah, there was an element of the warriors when they're swimming where they were going to be seen at the surface of the water, and they have those four tendril things, those tube shapes that come up off of his back and then the back of his head, and then we did increase the spines along his vertebrae and even down into the tail, so that in swimming you'd be aware of this tail that's propelling him through the water. And ultimately we didn't really get a look at him at the surface of the water like that in the film. He was almost always underwater until he finally broke through the surface.
Generally speaking, the process that we go through to design creature effects for a feature film is that it all starts with the script. Tom and I will sit down with the script, read it, then we will compare notes, kick ideas around, and come up with what we feel is the essence of the character that we're creating and the angle, what makes this show different from other shows that we've done. Once we have sort of a little agreement between ourselves about where we'd like to take it, we then sit down with the director and find out where the director would like to take it.
Nice guys. I love these guys. They made an amazing work. They are very professional, and I love them.
We knew what the style of the alien was that had been established earlier, and we knew how to improve upon it. But we wanted to take it in new directions that would give it even more life. And then from those initial meetings, we started doing sketches and paintings of the various creatures and incarnations of the creatures. And ultimately, we went through a sculpture phase where we did small-scale sculptures or maquettes. And we produced a whole shelves full of these little sculptures for Jean-Pierre to look through, and some of them were just, again, merely meant for inspiration. And all of this was done in preparation to full-scale sculpture, and which led us into the full production of the foam skins or the silicone skins, the mechanisms, and finally the paint jobs, and down to the performance on set.
There's a certain amount of the alien that people are very familiar with and they want to be able to recognize, and you have to be true to that. But within that, there's a certain amount of latitude in creatively making some alterations to the sculpture, to some of the materials we use, to the way we mechanize it, even to the way I perform inside the suit, that gives it something a little bit different while still honoring what the audience is coming to see in terms of the creature alien effects.
Tom and Alec never wanted Jean-Pierre to see the alien before the alien was ready, because and they were very, very right with that. And so Jean-Pierre never saw any picture, anything of the alien before the costume was done.
I remember the first day when we saw the alien on the stage during the test.
Of course, he sees miniature, he sees model, and he sees a lot of things. But the real alien, the first time he saw it, it was for real.
It was Tom inside the suit, and he appeared on the stage.
With Darius to do some really test, camera test, lighting test and stuff.
And it was a complete silence.
Because it was like an alien. And everybody stops.
We had the goosebumps, it was amazing.
Kind of scared. It was really, because it was really an alien. And it was really cool.
Profile. Look at the camera.
They are very good for the animatronic, right? And for the suit and for the everything. They are so professional. I love these guys.
The facehuggers and the eggs are staples from the previous films, and our job was to update them and bring them into the 1990s. The facehuggers themselves were accomplished through a variety of means. We had some that were simply floppy rubber stunt facehuggers that could be jerked on lines and tossed around, so on. Sigourney Weaver could wrestle with them, and so on. One of them had a tail that was in a coiled position that could, appear to be tightly wrapped around her throat. We had full mechanical facehuggers, which were operated by several puppeteers off screen, working levers to make the fingers move, blowing bladders to make the sacks undulate. And then we also had hand puppet versions, which were very effective.
Clamp those fingers down. Good.
Wherein we had puppeteers reaching up into the bodies of the facehuggers with mechanical fingers extending out from their fingers, and that allowed us to get nice shots of the creatures scuttling out of the eggs as they opened up. So it's always a variety of techniques that produce the best result. The eggs themselves, early on, Jean-Pierre had commented to us that he felt that in the past films the eggs looked a little mechanical. He, felt that they just sort of opened and that was it.
So this one's curled around a little more, right?
Looky. There it is, huh?
Looks fantastic.
That's real pink underneath there, isn't it? Look how red that is.
What were we thinking?
Huh?
So we took that as a challenge, basically, to improve upon the mechanisms of the eggs. So what we did was we gave the egg about probably 25 points of movement as opposed to the 4 that the eggs had in the past, and that included undulating movement on the edges of the petals, so that you could, even if the egg was sitting still before it came to life, you would start to see a little bit of movement, very subtle movement happening. The body would squirm and twist. The opening of the petals actually happened in 3 different segments on the petals. We had air bladders. We had an organ inside that would twist and move, and a sheath would pull off of it before the creature would jump out.
Pulsing bladder, pulsing, and inflate. Yuri. And tail. Tony.
So when we finally saw it, we showed up to set with about 7 puppeteers to operate this thing, and we shot it, and Jean-Pierre was absolutely ecstatic. He came to us and said, I didn't think that this, with his interpreter, talking, I didn't think that this would be possible, and, thank you. So we knew we had succeeded there.
There's certain aspects to the aliens' life cycle that we've seen before, because this is the 4th movie, so we do want to still give it something new. And of all those stages, I think the Chestburster is probably one that is seen in the briefest amount of time. It is basically it's an active creature. It's bursting out of its human host organism.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, let go.
And then it usually disappears and you don't see it again. And there's so much you can do within the context of the time that's allowed to a creature like that. And this time around, we're again making use of materials that we haven't really been able to make use of before. We have thin, translucent skins now that we're able to use, so the creature just looks like more of a pulpy kind of a larval stage of a living creature. It's much more alive looking. We've articulated it to a degree that it's very squirmy, it's very alive, and trying to get the most impact, so as it's bursting out of its host, maybe you're seeing something different, but maybe it's just a subconscious thing that you're feeling that it's a very alive, living creature this time.
When Ripley disappeared on the nest, it was an action scene on the script, and I prefer to modify the scene to have this strange thing much more than bigger word.
Steve Briggs, can we have some thick slime up here for Jonathan Blaney?
The Viper Pit was important. I mean, it was important in terms of the story because it was something that we had never seen before, but it was always sort of in your mind, like, where would these aliens take Ripley if they ever got a hold of her?
Aliens in here. I thought I was going to be alone.
So we knew it was very important to come across with somebody that was terrifying. And what we ended up with was this large living landscape of a 20-foot by 20-foot set piece that basically came to life. It was all containing tentacles and tails of aliens and a couple of aliens in suits and dragging Ripley through it. And I think at one point we must have had probably 25 or 30 puppeteers underneath. In some cases they were people that were just under there holding part of the foam sculpture and moving it, undulating it to keep it alive. Some of them were actually puppeteers performing with a tentacle. I was in a suit.
So we're not using any facial functions on this, right? And we don't know what the movement is yet. Correct. But once you're in the placement, I was thinking if we can get you to sink down in with that kind of wiggling.
No, I didn't open up that slit because of what Jean-Pierre said. So
all right.
I don't know if we want to try that now.
Okay. Maybe we'll get to placement first and get him to approve that, and then we'll go from there.
And coming up through a hole and dragging her, and she was being lowered down on a lift. So there was a huge amount of motion and movement going on. And the saving grace there was that it could all happen. You could have all these separate pockets of movement. They didn't have to overlap. It was never one creature that was supposed to be delivering a performance. It was always about a lot of little pockets of living movement bringing this thing to life.